everyone. Welcome to Torah with your host, Rabbi Anibal. Great to see you. You see, I moved my camera a little bit. You can still see the snow there, but the sun is shining, so you wouldn't be able to see me. This is a better way. I still have a little cough. I had the flu at the beginning of the year, actually, January 1st. And funny enough, I got the flu for a week with no cough. As soon as I got better, all the symptoms were away, and the cough came. And I heard it's a signature of whatever virus is going around. Anyway, let's see who's here. Brendan David Grossman, welcome. Eric Tizon is here, welcome as well. I'm sitting here eating lunch with Jerome and Rocky. I won't show it. I won't show them to you because you will be jealous of the sandwiches that they're eating. So, no, I won't do that. You can't, whatever you are, you can't get Sharizedic sandwiches there. Welcome to Holly Mandelkern. Great to see your name in the chat. I'm going to remove that. We're going to study Parshat Bo. This is the end of the plagues.
Poet.
Yeah. End of the plagues, the last three plagues. And the rabbis explained that they were separated into 7 and 3 because the last 3 have one thing in common, that it was darkness. Do you realize that? That the last 3 plagues have darkness in common? Well, let's think about it. It was locust, darkness, and Makat Bechorot that happened during the night. So, there is the Torah describes that there were so many locusts that it covered the sun. Then you have darkness, right? And then the other one that happened in the middle of the night. And there is something that I'm not going to cover today, but I want to mention to you. Welcome, Amparo Goldman. Welcome to the class. I want to mention to you, and is the fact that when Moses announced to Pharaoh the last plague, have you noticed the way Moses said it? Because it was at midnight, right? But Moses said around midnight. Why around midnight and not at midnight?
Because it took some time. Right?
Okay. Probably because it won't be all together at the same time.
One house to the other.
That's one reason.
God doesn't necessarily have to do that because he does it all.
And the other one is that they didn't want to, the Egyptians, to find an excuse to disqualify the whole thing for a technicism, for a technicality. You as a judge should know that, right? That you have a solid case, and then, one police officer messes up one paper, and the whole case gets dismissed because the chain of custody was compromised and everything, right? And yesterday you had a solid case, today is gone. So this is the same. All the plagues and everything, and then all of a sudden God said, I'm going to do it at midnight. And then they calculated that no, it actually happened 5 minutes after. God is not as powerful as we thought God is. So that's why Moses said around midnight. So don't come to me back with technicalities. They said it wasn't exactly at midnight, right?
There's only one problem with that.
What is the problem, Jerome?
They had no time clocks in those days, so they had no idea when exact midnight would be.
Yeah, I think they do. It's funny you mentioned, Jerome, that they didn't have ways to measure, and that's certainly, it has lots of truth that they had no way to measure night times, things, okay? Because if you look at the Jewish hour, it's only during the light time. So the way to calculate the Jewish hour, you take the whole time what is light and you split that into 12 segments. And that is called Sha'ah Zmanit, or sometimes translated the Jewish hour. So, for example, today, let me give you an example, because I have it here on the app, date, Sha'ah Zmanit. Today, one Jewish hour is 43 minutes. Why? It gets dark so early, and then if you split then into 12, so every Jewish hour is 43 minutes. Why is that so important? Because if I tell you that you can recite the Shema up to the 4th hour, right? It's up to the 4th hour considering the 43 minute hour. Okay? So that's why the Sha'ah Zmanit is so important, because there are many halachic things that will depend on the length of the Jewish hour. So that's why it's important to do it. And Eric was saying, he's thinking, no clock them. No, they didn't have clocks. So for the night time, I don't know how the Egyptians counted the night time, but the description in the Talmud is they went by sound. Sound. Because they calculated that there is one time where there will be no more noise outside, animals or babies. Right? And that will mark one of the milestones of the night. Based on sound, they were able to calculate 4 different times at night. I don't remember all the details. I will have to go back to the Talmud and read it again. But it was based on sound, so I don't know how they could calculate midnight back then. Okay, maybe the Egyptians have a different way of doing it, and that's what also said around midnight. Because if my way to count time is different than yours.
But even talking about the end of Shabbat, they used to say it because you can't see the difference between the potato and the rest.
Yeah, they have only by visual. Yeah, they didn't have time back then. Now it's arithmetical. Before it used to be by observation or by sound. Because they have one, for example, that they will calculate in that dogs will make sound after a specific moment and then they go to bed. So animals sometimes are more aware of different cycles of the night. So they will go by that.
At least that's what they knew at the time.
Sorry?
At least that's what they knew at the time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing. Brenda Grossman said Jewish Standard Time. But that's why, have you ever heard the joke when people are late?
Yeah.
And they said, Jewish time. Hey, you're going to listen from me first. I think that has Talmudic origins. Because in Judaism, time is relative. Today, the hour is 43 minutes. In the middle of July, it's maybe 75 minutes an hour. So you never know how long is a Jewish hour. That's why we are always late. I know it's a joke, but you can argue that there are precedents for that. It's not something that somebody came out with that. Okay, so let's start with today's material. And I want to start covering some scripture here. Scripture is important. I'm going to, hold on a minute. Going to remove the QR code. Back to the chat. There. Okay. Exodus 10, 21, 23. You got it? We are talking about now the moments before the last plague. Okay? We are approaching the Exodus now. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand towards heaven. And then, sorry. This is the darkness one. Then after the darkness, we're going to study the last plague. Okay? My bad. I got it backwards. Then the Lord said to Moses, stretch out your hand toward heaven, and there may be darkness over the land of Egypt. a darkness to be felt. It means that this is going to be serious business here. What does it mean, a darkness that could be felt? We don't know.
Okay.
It's almost like it's described as a thick darkness. Okay?
Can't be penetrated.
No, but it could be felt. I mean, if I try to rationalize that, they said how you create a darkness that could be felt could be, for example, black smoke. Right? A black smoke will make everything black, but you can feel it. Right? We don't know. We don't know. But it's something that it was to the point that they couldn't even light a candle or a torch. They had no way of doing it. Okay? And you will see why I'm saying that. Listen to this. So Moses stretched out his hands towards heaven, and there was thick darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. Days and night. They did not see one another, nor did any rise from his place for 3 days. But all the people of Israel had light where they dwelt. You know, it's impossible. And I think that now that we are approaching the end of the plagues, it's getting more and more irrational. To the sense that, how can you explain, for example, the death of the firstborn? Right? If you have to replicate that, remember at the beginning of the plagues that we studied that last week, that the Egyptians, the magicians were able to do the same, and then eventually they couldn't do it. But for us, for the reader, I was saying, hey, maybe the one for the lice, give me a little bit more time, I will be able to replicate that, right? Or maybe it could be a way for Moses to attract all the wild animals. I say, but the more we progress into the plagues, the more irrational they become.
This would mean that the Egyptian could not see an Israelite.
Yeah, but that was another miracle.
Yeah.
There was darkness everywhere, but not in Goshen. The land of Goshen, where they lived, they had light. Why? We don't know. It's very difficult to rationalize this. What kind of darkness was that they couldn't even light a candle or a torch, right? Have you ever thought about that? Because darkness is not a problem. We have blackouts here, but we light a candle.
Almost have to be like a liquid darkness.
That you wouldn't even be able to light a torch. How is that possible? We don't know. We don't know. To me, every time that we have these kind of things that cannot be explained, what I usually say, stop. Okay? Stop right there. It's a metaphor. Okay? It doesn't supposed to be something that you can do. It means that there is something else in that paragraph that is teaching you something else. Okay? But let me read with Holy Mandelkern says here. You say, Holy, darkness to be felt sounds like a poetic device combining the senses, since usually darkness will be seen. Yeah, correct. That's why I said, how can you explain that? The other time that we have stuff like this that is impossible to comprehend is, remember, for the revelation of the Torah? What is the description? That God was saying, and they were seeing the words. Ra'u et hakolot. They saw the voice. It's bad grammar. It's bad grammar. They're supposed to hear the words, but they saw the words. How? We don't know, but perhaps it was something so intense that not only you hear it, but you can immediately create yourself the whole picture. You know, when this is what happened. And I used to have a teacher in high school, She used to make us crazy with these kind of exercises, which she will give us a description of something and we have to draw it, and then we all got it wrong. She would say, start from the upper right corner, make a line about 2 centimeters long, and then she will give us instructions that for her were totally logical. But then when we show her things, they were all wrong. Some were closer than others, but perhaps there is a way when I'm trying to communicate something that I do it in such a way that is so perfect that you can see what I see. Because remember, this was God communicating.
When you read a book and it's very descriptive, you see it in your mind.
Sometimes, if the author is good.
Really good, yeah.
If the author, there is one like that for The Hunchback of Notre Dame. There is one chapter that everybody skips because it doesn't. It's not part of the story, but I think it's called. I can't remember and translate. I read it in Spanish, but nevertheless, it's like an aerial view of Paris. Okay, and the author goes for one full chapter describing all the roofs of Paris. I just couldn't handle it. I had to skip it. And everybody said, you can skip it because it's just a description. It won't add or subtract anything from the story. So who knows? Maybe this kind of description of the darkness, it also plays to, as Holly said, something, kind of darkness that involves all the senses. So then you have to start understanding darkness in a different way, and this is where I want to go. If the darkness is not physical, right? What other forms of darkness do we know? You know what I mean, right?
They were all depressed.
Sorry?
They were depressed.
Okay, that would be one. You know, when you think of yourself, sometimes I like to use my imagination, right? When you say somebody's going through a dark period, what do you mean? You are not.
They were despondent.
But listen to the description, and then it will be better for you. Listen to this. It says, there was darkness in all the land of Egypt 3 days. They did not see one another, nor did any rise from his place. Who do you know that they cannot move from where they are when they're going through dark times? I'm not saying that this is what it is, but it's pretty darn similar. Okay? So the rabbis noted something very interesting as well. That darkness created something very interesting. Why would you say that they did not see one another? It's not physical anymore, remember? What does it mean? In a non-physical way, they did not see one another.
Everything they were thinking was internal, about themselves, about their own lives.
It's what you don't care about somebody else.
Well,
Hi. But you know what I mean? When you don't care about somebody else, it's like you don't see the other person. They could be there, right, suffering, and you may even have the tools to help, and you just keep walking. So that could be another interpretation of a non-physical darkness. And then it has nothing to do with candles or torches. Now, how was that created by God? That is a totally different question. But it could explain better why the Israelites had light where they were. Okay? What if the plague was actually some kind of mental disturbance? But could be. And somebody would say, well, how can that happen? Seriously? How can you have a plague that is hail with fire inside? Right? There's so many things in this plague. How can that happen? So there is nothing impossible here. So let's go to the next text. I want to start expanding this concept. Midrash Rabbah says, during the first 3 days, they did not see one another. During the last 3 days, he who sat could not stand up, he who stood could not sit down, and he who was lying down could not raise himself upright. Okay? So here the Midrash is saying that there were 2 different periods, but the rabbis understand that the second period, the second half, was a consequence of the first one, that they did not see one another. Okay? Listen to this. I'm going to go to the next. It says, listen what the Rabbi Yitzchak Meir Alter says. There is no greater darkness than one in which people did not see one another. Right? That you are, something is so blocked that you can't even see other people, in which a person becomes oblivious to the needs of his fellow human being. When that happens, a person becomes blocked in his personal development as well. And that's why first they did not see one another, and as a consequence, nor did any rise from his place.
Complete breakdown of their social existence.
Yeah, but was it that they couldn't do it, or they didn't want to do it? Because sometimes you're so afraid to lose your place that you won't even try to help somebody else. You're thinking.
But it's still a plague. I mean, it's a holy plague.
It's a plague, but perhaps we got it all wrong of how the plague was. We are usually imagining physical darkness. Perhaps the plague is a different kind of darkness altogether, that the Torah for some reason called darkness. Okay? Who knows? Who knows? Any opinions in the chat? I would like to know what you guys think about this. What this darkness, and I like your comment, Holly, because I think it's in tune with the spirit of the Torah, that you're saying that it's a poetic way of saying it. It's not a physical darkness, right? Jerome, did you get more coffee?
Yes, sir.
You like sugar in your coffee, eh? And cream?
And milk.
Welcome to the club. The only problem is I'm a coffee gourmet.
Oh, that would be a problem.
I spend fortunes in good coffee. Fortunes. Okay, let's continue. Now, talking about this, when you care about somebody else, the Mishnah, and you may remember this, the Mishnah in Pirkei Avot brings one of my favorite teachings about this. Listen, there are 4 character types among people. Remember that section of the Mishnah that everything is in 4? There are 4 this and 4 that, for this and for that. This one says, there are 4 character types among people. One who says, what's mine is mine, what's yours is yours. Okay? The Mishnah said, is of average character. But some say, this is the character of Sodom. Ooh, what happened with Sodom?
Everyone took care of themselves and nobody else.
Yeah, but we usually get it wrong. We usually think that the evil of Sodom was that they will take your things. But the rabbi said, no. That is the generation of the flood. Okay? And that's bad. And God destroyed that generation. But God also destroyed Sodom. Why? Because mine is mine, yours is the average. What does it mean that is the average? That there are some people that they're above that, right? and that is fundamental for the survival of society. But I said in Sodom, the mine is mine and yours is yours was the law. It was law. You were not allowed to help. Okay, it wasn't just the average, it was the norm. And that's what is wrong. We will talk about that, a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay? Then that's Sodom. Then there is another one. It said, what's mine is yours, and yours is mine. What is that? No. Mine is yours. Yours is mine.
Oh, no concept of possession.
Yeah. But then basically it says, the Mishnah said that is unlearned. Unlearned because I know that some people love this concept. Mine is yours, yours is mine. There is no property. You can take mine, I can take yours. Right? But I think there is a reason why that model never worked. It never worked in history. If you want to expand a little bit more that, I recommend you go, the economic forum in Davos. Go and play the lecture of the new Argentinian president, Javier Milei. He talks about that. Yeah. He talks about that. So I highly recommend you go and play that one. You may agree or disagree, but it was brilliant what he said. Okay? Okay, so long story short, the Mishnah we said, what is mine is yours, what is yours is mine. It never worked. Okay? And unlearned, it means you didn't learn the lesson. Right? You didn't learn the lesson. And then it says, what's mine is yours, what's yours is yours, is pious. What's mine is yours, but I don't want anything from you. Some say that this verse represents Abraham. That he did acts of kindness, never asking for anything in return. How much do I owe you? Nothing. Nothing. Mine is yours, yours is yours. I don't need your money, I don't want it. Okay? And then the last one, you guess it, the one who says, what's yours is mine. What's mine is also mine. That is the wicked, and that is the generation of the flood, and that also was destroyed. Okay? That also was destroyed. So for us, for Jews, the ideal is mine is yours, yours is yours. For the Egyptians was mine is mine, yours is yours. And to that is called darkness. Okay? To that is called darkness. And that is very important for us to understand. So,
This is Pirkei Avot.
Pirkei Avot.
Does this have anything to do with the Parsha?
No, I just connected it. Because sometimes one of the things that you have to, I recommend it for everybody.
I'm just trying to keep up with you.
I recommend it to everybody is to always try to connect the Parsha, right, with rabbinic literature. And then you will understand better what the rabbis meant. Because if the rabbis write something that they're trying to rebuke you or teach you something, it means that at one point, either people of Israel or somebody else failed. And the rabbis don't want us to fail. So Pirkei Avot, it goes to that. Now, remember, Pirkei Avot is not halakha. It's not Jewish law. Okay? It's ethics. Okay, let's continue. Now, the Nachmanides, right, or the Ramban with an N at the end, says the following about this. About Sodom. Listen. Their intention was to stop people from coming among them. As the rabbis have said, for they thought that because of all the excellence of the land, and we know that, remember that Lot went there because the land was good? When Lot fought with Abraham, Abraham said, we shouldn't fight. You pick one side, I will go to the other. Okay, Lot, you pick first, right? I mean, going back to if I were Lot, I would say, no, Abraham, you were so nice to me. You pick first, right? But Lot said, oh, thank you, Abraham. I want that land. And it says the Torah that he picked the fertile land of Sodom. And Abraham got stuck with the semi-desertic rest of the land, okay? Anyway, another story. Okay, so we have to understand that Sodom had the best land of the best land. And they thought, many will come there, and they despise and also they despise charity on Sodom. They despise charity. They continue provoking and rebelling against God with their ease and the oppression of the poor. Because the poor said, I don't have anything, please give me yours. Right? I have nothing to give you, but can you give me yours? No, mine is mine, yours is yours. I'm rich, you're poor. Period. I'm not asking you to help me. Don't ask me to help you. In the opinion of our rabbis, all evil practices were rampant among them. Yet their fate was sealed because of this sin. That means they did not strengthen the hand of the poor and the needy, since this sin represented their usual behavior more than any other. Besides, since all people act righteously towards their friends and their poor, there was none among all the nations who matched Sodom in cruelty. Because basically the rabbis will say, even all the other nations, they were idolaters, idol worshippers, but at least they took care of the poor. And then you will see that eventually they lost a war, but never to the point that God has to intervene and destroy them. Okay? With the exception, perhaps, of the plague of darkness. That specifically say that each man for himself. That was what happened on that plague. And that's why it said on the other side that the Israelites had light. And we are going to see in the next plague, how that light got manifested. Light in the sense that, if darkness means they don't care of each other, they don't take care of each other, light means all the opposite. We do take care of each other, right?
Yeah.
Listen to this because it's fascinating. Next thing, now we go into the death of the firstborn. Remember what happened before the death of the firstborn? That they have to get the lamb,
Yeah.
get it for a bit, and then they will paint it. They will use the blood to paint the frames, and then the angel of death will pass over. That's why it's called Passover. Go figure. But Passover is a bad translation. It's Pesach. And Pesach, it has nothing to do with the angel of death. Pesach is the lamb. Just saying. Anyway, so let's start studying a little bit of this. It says, tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of this month, which month? Which month? Okay, I should say that yes, it's Nisan, we know that. But what happened is, now is the first time that God will start asking the people of Israel to commemorate certain occasions at specific times. But they didn't have a calendar, right? So this is Exodus 12:3, right?
Yeah.
What do you think it will be Exodus 12:2? The calendar, the midst of the calendar. Because then they will have a calendar to fit everything. Because basically in the 12:2, God will say, this is the first month for you. So in the Torah, Nisan is month number 1. Holy Mandelker said, it's probably someone who thinks yours is better than his. I was sort of joking about what's mine is yours and what's yours is mine. Well, Yeah. Okay, so the lamb. This is very important, okay? Because first we have to understand why God asked them to take the lamb. Okay? Do you know why the lamb? Read again. Tell all the congregation of Israel that on the 10th day of Nisan, they shall take every man a lamb according to their father's houses, a lamb for a household. Why a lamb?
An innocent animal?
Listen to this. It has some theological implications because it was sacred for the Egyptians. Okay, remember when Jacob's family came to Egypt? They were given the land of Goshen to take care of the animals because that was abhorrent. That's the word? Abhorrent? Like bad, very bad. Abhorrent for the Egyptians. That's what the Torah says. For them it was dirty to run after and clean up these animals that they were holy for them. So now is the last test for the Israelites. The last test. Are you going to be able to get their God and keep it tight in your house at the view of the Egyptians? It was a test. It was a test. Listen to this. The Mechilta says, this designation of an animal as the Paschal lamb occurred 4 days prior to its slaughter in the 14th of Nisan. The Jewish nation was immersed in Egyptian idolatry, a practice that deified the lamb. Okay? It was a deity, the lamb. Since the Torah counterbalances idolatry to the aggregate of the mitzvot, divine commandments, God's underlying message was, remove yourself from idolatry and attach yourself to mitzvot. The symbol was the lamb. This is one interpretation. Okay? Why the lamb? And you have to take it for a few days. Now, let me read the other thing. While the miracles the Jewish nation witnessed created an intellectual understanding and acceptance that God alone was the omnipotent sovereign of the universe, okay? But I guess you have to understand that the plagues made an effect on the Egyptians, but they also made an effect on the Israelites. Right? Well, you hope. And this is something that I always say, that whenever you have to learn something, right, there are different ways of learning something. But there are mainly two ways to learn something, and both start with M. Both starts with M. Number one, mistakes. You make a mistake, you suffer the consequence of the mistake, and then what happened? You learn the lesson. But that is the slow way of learning. There is a faster way of learning, and it's through mentors. Who is a mentor? Is somebody who already suffered a mistake, and he can advise you so you don't have to go through the same thing, right? And some people will say that the third M is money, in the sense that you can pay for an education to teach you what to do and not to do, okay? But in this case, the Egyptians are going through all these things, right? You will wish that the people of Israel will learn from their mistakes. If you ask me, I'd rather learn from your mistakes than my mistakes. If I see that you make a mistake, right, and I see how bad the consequences are, I won't do it. Because I already know what happened. I already know what's the end of the story, right?
Yeah.
So this is what happened. But you have but the rabbi said that the Israelites learned for what happened to the Egyptians as witnesses, right? So they didn't have to go through that, except maybe for the first 3 plagues that everybody suffered, and then after that was just the Egyptians, because the Israelites got it, and then they witnessed it, but they didn't suffer it. But they learned what could happen if you are not careful. Okay, but they learn it from somebody else's mistake. Let's continue. Okay, had they only been required to slaughter a lamb, their intellectual appreciation would have allowed them to perform the instantaneous rites, the deeply rooted emotional belief notwithstanding. Yeah, if they were immersed in the Egyptian society, and once in a while, they will do it the Egyptian way. If God said to them, "Get a lamb and slaughter it," they would probably do it the way they used to do it before, the Egyptian way. But now they said, keep it for 3 days, reflect on what you're doing. You're doing a Seder, right? This is not another pagan ritual. And they had a preparation. They need to get ready for that. There was an emotional component that they needed to develop. Let's continue. But having to choose the lamb and keep it within the home for 4 days prior to the slaughter was such a rejection of the idolatrous past that it succeeded in purifying the heart from all remnants of the intellectually rejected paganism. But if the power of habits and constancy were so strong that nearly a year of spectacularly nature-defying plagues did not completely remove it, how did a mere 4 days succeed in its uprooting? It looks like, not everybody learned it from the...
What was the year?
But actually this is true. Actually that the rabbis calculate that only 1/5 of the Jews left Egypt. That the others, they decided to stay. They didn't get the message. But there are some that they were in the fence and said, this was the last thing to convince them that God is God. But then now this rabbi said, how? How? Well, an action personally taken is immensely more powerful than a fantastic miracle that it was merely witnessed. You understand this? It's not something that you see, something you do. Something that you do. The same happens when we study, right? Sometimes it's not enough with studying. You have to practice. You have to do. You have to do. The good Jew is not the one who read more about Judaism. It's about the one who practice it. The same thing is.
So the ritual, the 4 days, painting on the doorpost, you're saying that was like a...
But it's the first time that they are required to do something. Before it was just God doing all the job. And it was quite a test. Take that thing that some of you thought it was holy, like the Egyptians thought it was holy. Keep it for 4 days there, look at it, and realize that it's nothing to do with Egyptian culture, right? It's going to be a different...
And then use it to identify your home.
Yes. Okay. Miracles may overwhelm, but ultimately convince the intellect, but an action personally taken is tethered to the emotions rooted deep in the heart, so its impact is immensely more profound. Holly said, yes, this action with the lamb makes it more hands-on and personal. Hold on, what is here? So the action with the lamb makes it more hands-on and personal. Yeah, it does. It does. Let's go to the next text. We're running out of time, and I want to... and then another reading from a rabbi. How often do we struggle to find the meaning or personal relevance in a mitzvah while pondering that if only God would reveal himself in some spectacular supernatural demonstration of omnipotence, it would be so much easier to believe in him? Have you ever said that? Right? They said, hey, if God splits the Red Sea for me, well, they said the Red River, to make it more Manitoba friendly. If God splits the Red River for me, I will believe. People think like that. If God does that miracle for me, hey, I will believe. It's very human to think that way. Indeed, we need God Himself, creator of human psyche, to teach us the fallacy of that argument, to remind us that mitzvot are not ritual, but opportunities for personal growth, vehicles for investing ourselves in a personal relationship with the divine. And this is again, I learned this when I was studying the laws of kashrut, how to slaughter an animal. And then one of the rabbi said, do you think God really cares if you slaughter the animal on the side of the neck, the kosher way, or in the back of the neck? It's not about God. It's about us. The way we perform mitzvot have an impact on us. Don't you think for a second that you have that power to affect God. God is infinite regardless of what you do or you don't do. Whatever you do or don't do affects you. So every mitzvah is an opportunity to bring something to our lives and to bring us closer to God. That's what a mitzvah is.
We know that observation doesn't work.
Well, but it's a combination. You need different aspects.
And the Jews had the Red Sea split for them. They had the miracle on Mount Sinai. They had the destruction of the what's his name when the guys when they went to the earthquake. They saw all this stuff and yet they still were complaining.
So yeah. Hi. And then it closed. They must be studied and understood to offer meaning and avoid visualization, but they must be performed and fulfilled to be effective. You can think about mitzvot all you want. You know, sometimes we think too much about why we do it, why do we do it. Do you do it? Do you do it? Or just talk about it? And then, I want to teach you this before we run out of time. I'm going back to the fact that the Egyptians didn't see each other for 3 days, right? For the next plague, the plague of the death of the firstborn, they have to take this lamb, they have to slaughter the lamb, and then what? Listen to this. They have to eat it, right? And it says, if the household is too small for a lamb, hey, a lamb, it's not a pigeon, right? Then a man and his neighbor next to his house shall take according to the number of persons, according to what each can eat, you shall make your count for the lamb. It means that, hey, Jerome, you live by yourself, right? Or is Yakira living with you? Just you. One person. Do you need a lamb?
No.
Rocky, how many in your house?
Just me.
So basically what you said is you get a lamb between the two of you. Right? Is it basically what the mitzvah says is that you have to calculate, right? Is one lamb too much for you? And if you say yes, what do? You share it with somebody else. So, we are talking about the first time that we have a Seder, right?
Yeah.
It's not a coincidence that the Seder of Pesach is the time where we got crazy to try to invite people over, or to try to get ourselves invited somewhere else, right? Why?
Sure.
It's coming from here, because the first Seder was embedded with that concept that, hey, do you have a lamb? No, it's just me. Come with me. All the opposite what the Egyptians did. All the opposite. Listen to this. Why didn't the Torah write, if you do not have a Paschal lamb, find a family who had an extra portion to join with them? So it's not up to you to find somebody else. Listen, why did the Torah place the onus on the one who has the extra portion and not on the one who needs it? The Torah teaches us a most valuable Jewish lesson. Hashem chose to put the obligation on the giver rather than the receiver. Hashem commanded the people to open their homes to the lonely, the poor and the needy. The people of means should not partake of their Pesach Seder until they have seen to it that their underprivileged neighbors are included. Okay, one of the most important aspects of the Pesach meal is for families to share in the educational experience of the Exodus, right? The Seder, we retell the Exodus. Parents are encouraged to involve their children. Children are encouraged to ask questions. Even the most scholarly sage is obligated to tell over the story of our redemption. Yet, with all the emphasis the Torah puts on the family unity, it makes certain that no one is alone. Compassion for the poor and lonely is also part of the education that we must teach our children. Parents are to serve as role models for their children so that the next generation will emulate them. Yeah. Hello, Sam Bailey, welcome. And remember, if any of you came late to the class, remember it's going to be rebroadcast tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time. Okay? Just said it. Just remember, 8 p.m. Central Time goes out again, so you can catch it again. So this is very important, that the Seder is not only teaching your children about the Exodus, but what else? The story of the Lamb. Giving. Remember the Mishnah? Mine is yours, yours is yours. It doesn't say invite the neighbors over, but hey, you should charge him for the portion that he's eating. Mine is yours is yours. I don't want anything. Just come and join us. Hey, this is going to be my sermon on Saturday. So you have a little bit of a preview here, right? Right after the first mitzvah, that was the calendar, this is number 2. Mitzvah number 2, kindness. And that is because some of the rabbis believe that, the Torah didn't need the book of Genesis, because the practical things of the Torah starts here with the mitzvah of the calendar, right? But both are the same. If you go back to the book of Genesis, God creates the world to have a recipient of God's goodness. And right at the beginning of what the rabbis consider should be the beginning of the Torah, it starts with the same teaching, that you should do kindness for others. So it's the same concept here, okay? One more text. Our nation is founded upon the principle of children. Okay? This is something that we forget sometimes. The children are the ones who guarantee our national continuity, whether they are biological, adopted, or taught. Taught means because in Jewish tradition, your students are your children. Okay? They are the reason for creation. Every species must be focused on survival. Each individual must attempt to survive, not for the selfish reason, but for the selfless reason. It is selfishness in the service of selflessness. We are told to emulate God in all his ways. God is singular in the most unique way possible, yet he exists to do good and chesed, as I mean. The Genesis, Bereshit. God creates a world to be able to give. If you're a giver and you don't have a receiver, you're not a giver. You have the potential, but it never happens. So when you're a giver, you have to go and find a receiver. So that's what God did. God created a world to find a receiver. Just as God is one and is selfless, so too must we be selfless, although we were each created apart and alone. This is the purpose of education. This is the purpose of family. This is the purpose of marriage. This is the purpose of life. Give. To give. And it's 1:00. Again, I timed it perfectly to read the last slide at 1 o'clock. I keep surprising myself
That's the Torah.
on the timing. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Hopefully, I will see you all again next Thursday. If you're around in Winnipeg, please come say hello at the Asper campus. We have the brand new cafeteria. Shari Zedek took it over, so it's a larger menu, a more sophisticated menu, more delicious menu. So come and try it out. Yeah. And remember, if you are coming to our services in person, remember that this Friday and Saturday, services will be at Temple Shalom. Okay? Very important. Very important. This week will be at Temple Shalom, then we come back to the burning. But for this Friday and Saturday, Temple Shalom. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And remember, the class will be rebroadcasted tonight at 8 p.m. Central Time.